All right, good morning. Thanks everyone for coming. All right, the time is 9:02 a.m. I call to order the strategic planning retreat of the Oconee County Council. Today's date is Friday, February 23rd, 2024. I will begin with a moment of silence. Mr. David Root, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Dearest Father, it is a beautiful day. Mornings like this after a rain help us to think about the newness of life and the opportunities for a new day and for a new time and a new era, a new season. So now as we meet, as council meets to discuss their plan and vision, and as that comes together, pray for your guidance, that they would be good stewards, mindful of what is good for the citizens all throughout the county, and mindful of what you would have them and us do. Everything in love, by your wisdom, by your strength. And in your name I pray. Amen.
Sheriff Mike Crenshaw, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we have a presentation from Dr. D. Hay from Tri-County Technical College.
Right. Thank you all for making some time for us, and I want to also recognize a couple of our commission members, Mr. John Powell from Oconee County and Ms. Helen Roseman Saunders, Oconee County, and also notably Helen is serving her 30th year on our commission. So we are really happy to have dedicated, committed board members who are here to help our communities thrive and be better. So I'm here to share with you some updates on Tri-County Technical College with a focus on the county that we're in today, Oconee County, giving you an idea of what's going on at the campus and some college updates overall. So in our first slide, I always start with both internal and external presentations, our mission and our vision. This centers us on why we come to work every day and what we do for our communities. So our vision is passionate people, transforming lives and building strong communities, one student at a time. That student center focus is what guides us every day at Tri-County. Student success is what we do. And I'll share with you some of our performance numbers here in a bit. And then our mission is focused heavily on teaching and learning. We've got a number of great partners with research universities. That's not our job. We are focused on advancing economic development in our region through preparing a highly skilled workforce. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, how we're achieving that mission and driving that vision of student success. So in this next slide, a little bit about who we serve. We are serving more and more diverse populations every day. It's interesting that over the years, Tri-County's grown from one campus to campuses in all of our counties, including Oconee County, serving between non-credit and credit students, 9,000 students annually in the upstate of South Carolina. So that's something to celebrate in and of itself. We're serving recent high school graduates, high school dual enrollment students with partnerships with the Oconee County School District, technical career pathway dual enrollment students, large number of low-income students. A third of our students at Tri-County are receiving Pell Grants, which is a need-based grant. So it indicates that we're serving a lot of lower-income and first-generation college students. A growing number of minority populations, particularly Hispanic populations, and that growth is really coming in from Oconee County Hispanic populations. English language learners, under-resourced populations, and also Tri-County has the fourth highest number of life scholarship recipients in all of higher ed in the state of South Carolina. University of South Carolina, Columbia, Clemson University, College of Charleston, Tri-County. So out of 33 higher ed institutions, Tri-County's got a large number of high performers enrolled at the college as well. So really broad range of students that we serve. I put together some points for why we think we're a good investment for the community, because our communities, our taxpayers invest in us and they'd like to see a ROI. So that's how I'd like to share with you some points about why we remain a good investment. In this next slide, the first point is that our population is growing in the Tri-County region, and while that population growth stays strong, we're able to provide a steady growth of students to the workforce in our area. So in our region, we pulled these numbers in January, we have an expected growth in the Anderson, Oconee, and Pickens County region of about 8%. And the manufacturing sector, very specifically, a sector that we serve heavily, is going to grow about 6% over that same time frame. Thinking about our mission of developing a highly skilled workforce, we got more people to work with over the next 10 years. In this next slide, we've got more high school students that are choosing to come to Tri-County. Tri-County enrolls the third highest number of South Carolina high school graduates directly out of high school, only third to the University of South Carolina, Columbia, and Clemson University. Think about that for a minute. 33 higher ed institutions in the state of South Carolina. Tri-County is number 3, only next to colleges that are near 30,000 students. So we're doing a great job serving our school districts. We want to do better. We think we got a lot of room for improvement, but when you compare us to others, we're doing a pretty good job. Tri-County fall enrollment grew by almost 3%. So in times where kids that are finishing high school are making a decision, do I just go straight to work or do I go to college? We're getting more and more of them to choose that investment in themselves for the long term of going to college. And then something else we're really proud of, over the past 5 years, this sector of 30 to 39 year of age students has grown by almost 15%. These are individuals that have gone to work, did not have education, and then have decided, you know what, I can do better in my life, and they're choosing to come back to school. And that number is continuing to grow, and that 15% is hundreds and hundreds of individuals, considering we're serving 9,000 students. So we're really proud of that. I think we've got more work to do there as well, as that's a population sector that in Oconee County, as well as in all of our areas, is one of the fastest growing age demographics in the area. Next slide. Tri-County students have better outcomes. So this is the ROI piece. Our students continue to have the highest student success rate, the highest graduation rate, and the highest student success rate and transfer rates in the South Carolina Technical College system. Nobody's even close. Our student success rate is at least 20% better than the next closest college. Our student success rate's around 70%. When we benchmark ourselves nationally, we are in the 90th percentile or better in all of those metrics when we compare ourselves to other two-year colleges, technical colleges in the United States. So you've got a gem right here in Oconee County with performance. Our Pell students were recently recognized, those students that are in high need when they come to school. If they come to us first and then transfer to four-year colleges, they have the best bachelor's degree completion rate in the United States of America. Out of all 1,100 and some two-year colleges in the United States, that was identified by the U.S. Department of Education late last year. So Tri-County was published in USA Today, University Business, a number of others of our students that transfer having the best bachelor's degree completion rate in the United States. Another area of focus, excited to share this as well with partnerships with Oconee County School District and all of our 7 school districts, that over the past 10 years, we're celebrating our 10th year of technical career pathways. This is dual enrollment for high school students in technical programs, welding, CNC, HVAC, program mechatronics, programs such as that. We've had almost 900 students participate, and a little over 800 have earned a credential. That's before they graduate high school, walking across the stage with the first year of their 2-year degree finished. They come to us after that, and then within a year, they're out to work at 19 years old with a 2-year degree. So that's, and the best part of that is that's at no cost to them. So talk about savings and being able to move into the workforce debt-free, that's really important. So we're really proud of those things. And then the last ROI piece I want to share with you in the next slide is that our students are remaining in the community. So if we're turning out these students, what's happening to them later? Tri-County is the best performing 2-year college in the state of South Carolina technical college system for economic mobility 10 years after entering the workforce. That's not me saying that, that's a national study. Our students are earning more is what that means. When they finish and they're working in the workplace, 10 years later, they're earning more than, on average, than any other 2-year graduate in the state of South Carolina. That's really important for the individual. That's important for the community because that means that's an increase in tax base. 71% of our graduates are working in South Carolina a decade after graduating. That's the second highest in all of higher ed, only next to Horry Georgetown Technical College, and they were at a couple of percent better. So our students remain in South Carolina. They work in South Carolina. They're contributing to the South Carolina economy. So that, I think that's really important as well. And we're the only state that we're the only college that has a service area bordering 2 states. So they've got choices, and they're remaining here. And 93% of our graduates are placed in jobs in their field of study, one of the best in the state of South Carolina. So I think all of those are great points to bring up to make sure that you're aware as we are trying to be responsible with the funding that we get to fund our college, that the funding is really producing great outcomes. A couple of other things to be aware of, some other things in the news in college, just to focus here on the Oconee campus. 14 programs there and growing. Programs such as CNC operations, programming and operations, computer technology, mechatronics technology, manufacturing management leadership, and a number of others. The enrollment continues to grow at that campus. I was provided with some data this morning that, we often talk about the students that are coming there for a degree, but we also do a lot of workforce training in our non-credit offerings for companies. It was reported to me this morning that we, last year, the 2022-2023 academic year, we delivered over 225,000 contact hours for workforce training, customized training for individuals, Oconee County individuals that are working in Oconee County companies for workforce training. That is amazing to me. That is a lot of customized workforce training. So that's what I mean by customized training. Companies like BASF, was speaking with Greenville Industries, VP of Human Resources just a few days ago about PLC training we were doing for them. So that's happening all across the county. And we also have Oconee County Adult Ed doing ESL courses at night using our facility. So we're able to serve the community in that way. So we're doing all kinds of things to make sure that campus is vibrant and effective. One of the programs I want to feature is plastic injection molding. We learned right after COVID that there was a growing need, and wages were definitely growing in this field, and individual companies were hiring in people off the street that needed some upskilling. So we worked with our business and industry partners in Oconee County and Anderson County to create a program that would meet their needs, a fully customized program. It's only 7 weeks. It meets only on Thursday evenings, and it is taught by industry experts. So this is the picture of the first class that finished up last year. We have another class running right now. So you see this big old green machine back there, Engel. That was with a partnership with Engel, who produces plastic injection molding machines like the ones that are right here at Baxter High Tech, right in the Oconee Industrial Technology Park. They were so excited about this that they donated that machine to us, because those machines are very, very, very expensive. So they, in partnership, donated the machine, and we were able to offer the program. So these students are learning basics in injection molding, hands-on learning right there, 180 ton injection machine, just like the machines are using in industry. Those individuals finished up, and they were able to move their earnings and wages up to into the $20-something an hour range in a 7-week training course. So second cohort is running right now. Next slide, you'll see that program was so successful last year that it was honored by the Community Colleges of Appalachia as the Instructional Workforce Program of the Year for the entire Appalachian region, right here, the program right here in Oconee County. And you can see the person that ran the program, VP of Manufacturing at Baxter High Tech. He volunteered his time and actually taught the students. So that was just a great example of workforce partnerships. Another example of a workforce partnership that continues to thrive is the one with BASF Seneca. A number of years ago, we created with them one of the only 3 apprenticeship programs in the United States, right here in Oconee County. 12-month program with a partnership with the BASF Seneca site. That program has a group of students that they bring in each year, and they hire them full-time, send them to the Oconee campus 1 day a week for education. They educate together, so we've got a person doing the work, and then they actually have another trainer from the site that joins in, so that they are learning what they're doing in the job as well as the schoolwork as well. They are working, as I mentioned, full-time, and at the end they earn a process technology certificate. This has been so successful that we have just launched the 5th cohort in this series. These graduates, or these completers in this program, the plant manager and the senior VP over this area for the United States comes in for the completion each year. And they've said that these students are already training incumbent workers, and their competency levels are better than people that have been there in that role for 5 years. So that's a really successful program. And these individuals are individuals that have no manufacturing experience, ranging from the ages of 18 years old, recent high school graduate, all the way to near 50-year-old females that are going back to work after raising families. So that's a really neat program. And then I mentioned technical career pathways, a couple of things about that, a little more about that. We've got 8 fully funded ones. I'd shared with you some of the programs there. 894 students over the past 10 years, 802 credentials earned. But the number of hours completed and the tuition savings are really impressive for these students. Over 16,000 credit hours completed and almost $3 million in tuition savings. So that means no debt, and that's important for our graduates. So I want to end, as I do with our students and our faculty and staff. I like to end with a student story. And the one I want to share with you is right in our newest annual report on page 6. On page 6, you see Luis Hernandez's story. He's our first student story in our newest annual report. He is a worker at JTech right here in Oconee County. He started his work, or he graduated. He's a first-generation college student. His family migrated into the United States. He was born in Oconee County, and he's the first one to ever attend college. He started Tri-County in criminal justice, decided that just wasn't right for him, went to work at JTech, and JTech said, you know what, you've got a lot of opportunity. I'm going to send you to school. And a lot of companies do that. So JTech sent him back, and he is enrolled in a CNC program with us. He is earning his 2-year degree, and it has totally changed his life. he's able to move up in the company. He's earning more, and when he completes that, he's going to have leadership roles. So I invite you to read the rest of his story. That's a really impressive personal story of working with companies in the area and serving Oconee County residents to help them to have a better life. So that's what we mean in our mission by improving quality of life, workforce development. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the college, what we're doing, or any of the information I shared with you.
Any questions, comments?
I'd just like to thank y'all for everything y'all do for the community in our county area. I guess without you guys, we wouldn't have a lot of industry that we have today, especially in the park. And I appreciate y'all building the satellite,
Yeah.
building.
We got some other programs that we're looking at too. We got a interesting one with the U.S. Forest Service. There's a huge need for forestry technicians, and of course, we got a U.S. Forest right here in Oconee County. So it would be the first, literally, the program we're developing will be the first in the nation, and it will be right here in the county. We're looking at a couple of other things too that I'll be sharing with you in the future.
Thank you and your board. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say really appreciate Tri-County Tech. I'm a product of Tri-County Tech. Started there in '75 when I graduated high school. My mom pushed me that way. I hated going, but she pushed me. But enrolled into the nuclear engineering program, which I don't think y'all have now, but it was partnered up with Duke Energy at the time. So it sent me on my career path, and I'm very appreciative of it.
Yeah, that's great. I think Mr. Durham was a graduate as well. And we're
That's
gonna
right,
do-
yes, sir.
Yep.
I'm grateful to see the increased population going to the OITP
Yes.
area, and I think from an economic development standpoint, it's one of the number one things when people come here, whether, even if they decide not to locate in Oconee County, they talk about how great that is to have that training program. So I appreciate that. I know that wasn't the 100% of a vote on there, but I'm proud to be one sitting up here saying that, never weary and paid off, and appreciate your board's commitment to that, the state funding with that.
Yep.
And knowledge to know what education does for economic development. So
Yep.
gracious for all that and everything that you do at your other areas as well. So thank you.
That's a good point about the location. There have been some really positive impacts. We've had companies working with the Economic Development Office in Oconee County, Oconee Alliance, that literally company owners or groups are driving up Highway 11 and they see the campus and they see the school district right there, and they drive up and they've literally got leads developed because of that. So that's just a really neat partnership that's developed over time that has just yielded things that we never thought it would yield for workforce and economic development. Horton is another one. Great growth there, great partnership. So it was a great decision. Thanks for supporting it.
And I just want to say how much I appreciate Tri-County Tech. It's a tremendous asset to a community. Everybody's touched on economic development. As you said, I attended Tri-County Tech. Mr. Myers did, and I believe Mr. Hart's taking continuing education classes there. So 3 of the 5 of us have a pathway through Tri-County. So thank you for all y'all do.
Yep. Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members, for attending.
Okay, next we have annual review by Ms. Brock.
Good morning, Jen, you got my PowerPoint? Oh, I don't have it. There it is.
I'm gonna come up here so make sure I can hear me easy. Lapel mic ready, okay. Thank you. I have a little bit of a scratchy throat. I think it's just allergies. I'm also blind as a bat, so. This should be stay out the sidewalks. Okay, so every year, as you all know, because you are participants in our process, Oconee County Council holds a strategic planning retreat to identify the upcoming priorities for the next year and for us to have guidance in establishing the budget for not just the upcoming year, but 3 years to come. Oh, I got a clicker. There we go. Last year, we held the retreat in February to establish the plans for the upcoming year. We want to go through those and let council and the public know how the county employees managed and strategized for each one of those. So as each council member listed their priority for the upcoming year, we came back at a future council meeting and had those ranked in order of the number of council members that prioritized certain initiatives. This year, there were only 2 initiatives in the top, which would have been Tier 1 initiatives, and that was site improvements at Golden Corner Commerce Park. Golden Corner is our only undeveloped commerce park in Oconee County. It sits along Highway 59 at the southernmost edge of the county near the Fairplay District. Last council meeting, Oconee County Council approved the management engineering construction oversight for a 62-acre pad-ready site at Golden Corner. Just yesterday, we received the engineer's letter of recommendation. I emailed you all. So that will be coming to council on March 5th for final approval, and we should have some shovels in the ground by mid-March. There we go. I moved that screen up for later in the day, but I hope everyone can read the roadway infrastructure. So roadway infrastructure, as we went through the budget process this year, we had 2 monumental changes in that. One was the selling of a local paving company who we had a previous paving contract with, so we terminated the terms of the current contract in anticipation of going with the new company. That bid will be coming to you in April. In addition to the paving contract, council approved an additional mill to go to the roadway infrastructure fund, which allows for more funding for this priority. Stakey Mountain Road site distance improvements, Dr. John's repair, creek bank stabilization, Fair Oak intermediate parking lot construction, Camp Road recycling closeout, moving all of that material to the Seneca C&D landfill, the Shawram County Park grading for equipment shed, Station 21 Westminster, Heritage Fairgrounds grading and shouldering. Heritage Fairgrounds also received C-Fund money for a roadway construction project there, which the county also assisted. Arlington Heights and Tabor Road culvert replacements. Those 2 had been on the list for more than a year. And Utica Mill Hill. The important thing about the road department and looking at infrastructure and capital planning throughout the rest of the budget term is that the road department has a significant amount of resources that can be utilized for other projects. Originally, we had removed some of the items on here for like the Camp Road recycling closeout and the Shawram County Park and the Unica cleanup. None of those were directly related to roadway infrastructure. But what those capabilities of staff provided to the county was the ability to do those projects in-house and not have to bid them out, saving us potentially about $1.5 million. Obviously, we wouldn't have had to pay the tipping fees at the landfill, but we would have had to pay transportation costs for the materials that were being taken to and from. Now, the County Roads and Bridges Department manages all of this. In addition to that, the C-Fund Committee, which is the CTC Committee, which is allocated state fund from the penny gas tax, allocated an additional $1.4 million to Oconee County for infrastructure projects as well. Should we answer questions in between, or y'all just want to roll through it? Perfect, I'm rolling. Tier 2 priorities were priorities identified by at least 2 council members during the planning retreat last year. And the highest one of those is a three-peat, was the wages and salaries for county employees and sheriff's officers. This one was addressed in a multi-fold fashion. So in the beginning of the budget process, each county employee received a 3% cost of living increase. As we navigated through a budget amendment, sheriff's officer salaries were realized for departmental-wide $470,000. This allowed Sheriff Crenshaw to both bring up the bottom, address some compression, and levelize out those years of experience for his elder staff. Addition to that, there were 14 new positions approved by council. The new positions you wouldn't think would fall into the wage category, but by providing additional resources to departments who were already strained, what you did was take some burden off of staff members who were working exponential overtime hours and spreading out those responsibilities a little bit clearer. Oconee County also approved the participation for a classification, compensation, and time use study. The study is in full swing right now. In fact, there is a 10 o'clock meeting this morning I'll be missing. We anticipate results from that study to be back to council by the end of March. Another one that has come back for a three-peat is, I skipped one. Did I skip one? What? Oh, here, I'm gonna go back to it then. Is the airport hangar construction. So Oconee County Regional Airport is currently in an airport layout plan, which is similar to a capital improvement plan. As explained to you all in years past, typically the FAA and the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission do not allow for the construction of hangars for economic development and/or increased revenues on land that was purchased with grant funds from the FAA or SCAC. The county purchased 11.23 acres across the street, which on this picture would be on the other side of the terminal buildings, across Airport Road, over on this side in 2020, and we have just gotten approval to do a layout plan for that. There will be large considerations moving forward for the hangar construction that may include relocation of the terminal building, relocation of the fuel farm, and/or demo of the current terminal building in order for us to do that. Now we'll go back one. The county annex secure voting. The reason I put this on here, even though it wasn't funded and approved, is we've just completed the presidential preferential primaries and the voting situation in the front hallway here. They were very busy over a period of days. The voting and poll workers and volunteers did an amazing job at managing the people coming and going from the facility. I just wanted to put this back on there since it was so fresh in events happening here. And we move on to the Tier 3 priorities. These were priorities identified by only one council member during last year's strategic planning retreat. Some of these had been Tier 1 on previous years, and we had made headway, and I think that's why they fell down to Tier 3, because we were in the process of making momentum on some of these, but I thought it would be helpful to provide an update on these things. First one being the sewer infrastructure expansion to exits 1, 2, and 4. So the issuance of a $25 million general obligation bond, as you all know. The last meeting, council also approved the very first expenditure from the GO Series bond to Thomas & Hutton for the engineer construction management oversight to get us to exit 4. The county is also currently participating in as a stakeholder in a grant-funded board feasibility study. And what that means is the Rural Infrastructure Authority has funded a grant to the Sewer Authority to evaluate the composition and construction of the OJRSA as an entity, and we'll be bringing back recommendations, if any, changes for that. Mr. Mize, I think this one was yours last year, the fire protection priority municipal contracts. All of the contracts have been executed and completed, including the last one, which was this week with the City of Walhalla. Continuing the momentum, litter control and enforcement improvements. This one's really good, actually. So our Oconee program, I'm starting from bottom going up. The Our Oconee program was a program that we kind of copied from Pickens County. They had established a program to offer funding in the amount of $250 per mile for nonprofit agencies, qualifying nonprofit agencies, to pick up litter. I got this information yesterday from Tommy Crumpton at the Sheriff's Office, and I was a little surprised and very happy that we have had 71.5 miles of litter picked up in the county by volunteer organizations who are able to utilize those funds to propel their nonprofit organization in a way, so it's a win-win. Out of the 71.5 miles, they picked up 7,805 pounds of litter. And the Oconee County distributed $17,875 for such. And it doesn't seem like in a big way that this was going to work when we first initiated. I think Mr. Elliott and Mr. Davis, y'all were the first ones on council. Mr. Hart was too big, he's not here. When we brought this up, the first year I think we had maybe 4 participants. Now that we're starting to advertise this program a little better, you can see the results speak for themselves. Inmate litter pickup by the sheriff's office was 77,820 pounds, and we have received grant funding for equipment for bulk litter removal as well. The regulation of junkyard facilities, again, is back on the agenda and in full discussion. The support for the Farrick Youth Center. I mentioned previously about the C-Fund money going there. Oconee County also wrote a letter of support for them to be a priority for grant funding under ACOG, which I believe is where Mr. Hart is this morning. I think this was on their agenda this morning, for the demolition and removal of the Fairplay School, because it does have some hazardous materials identified there. And Oconee County does not own the school, which is why Oconee County hasn't taken the steps to take the building and facility down. Allocation of $150,000 to the farm center. Although this wasn't approved by council for allocated direct funding, the $140,000 in C funds, and we donated more than $4,000 of Rockport to the farm center for their fair last year. I believe this one was Mr. Hart's for the assistance for EMS programming, and specifically in the Shiloh district. Last fall, Oconee County Council approved 2 Oconee County Emergency Services, EMT and firefighters, to be housed at the current Shiloh substation over off of Old Clemson Highway that addressed that initiative. It is the mission of Oconee County to provide our current and future citizens and visitors quality services while protecting our communities, heritage, environment, natural resources in an ever-changing world. On the back of your longer document here, these are all the departmental reviews. I think the one thing I want to bring up, I'd really like for y'all to read all of these, is that we're hitting records again in every department. When we started receiving the annual review information documents from each department submitting for this, we hit records in the assessor's office. We hit records in the auditor's office. We hit records in building codes. We've hit records in the clerk of court. We hit records at the coroner's office. The county attorney has seen an influx of cases. Delinquent tax, as you'll see on the chart here, while the numbers of properties may have gone down, what we're doing is seeing an increase in every demand for every service that the county provides. I think last week at the Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee meeting, Swain Steele was here again talking about the number of times and that we're realizing increasing at the landfill. The good thing about the increases and that we're seeing more and more is that we have been, despite everything that's been thrown at us, been able to keep up with that demand and been able to provide additional services that contribute to the quality of life, such as PRT. We might be seeing record numbers and having record demands, but we're also seeing record numbers of ATAX funds come in. We're seeing record numbers of youth coming into our library system. We're seeing record numbers of participant and community stake events. And I think that's a testament to both the citizens and the workforce of Oconee County government, because everyone knows that more is more is more is more, but at the same time, I do feel like people are starting to see that the county is more than just garbage and roads, that there are programs and services available that contribute to everyone's quality of life, and that those funds can be offset by ATAX funds, by rock quarry transfer in. And I hope that message remains for us as we continue out this new year. Do I have any questions regarding this?
Any questions from Ms. Brock?
One more document that's in front of you that I think is also just amazing is there's a short spreadsheet with some backup materials. Jen, I think you have this. It doesn't need to go up on the screen necessarily. That more, record has also impacted our ability to search for, apply for, and be awarded grants. Just briefly going through some of the grants with Ms. Martin, the grants administrator, who does work directly with me in my office on grants and various sundry other things. We compiled the grant summary, which is just the first page for your review. The county is been awarded more than $35 million in grant funding. Some of these grants are pass-through grants. This does include ARPA funds, CARES Act, and the tribal funds. But that $35 million is a testament to the fact that this county is stable, one, because you have to be awarded the funds, and that we can provide services and identify pockets where lacking services aren't being made up by the market or any other government entity. If you get a chance, it would be to your advantage to flip through this document here. I just think it's great that we are able to maintain what we're maintaining here and still go out and look for additional resources to help offset the funds required for the expectation of citizens and visitors.
Thank you, Ms. Brock. Unless there's no questions, we'll start with the council member discussion part. We'll start backwards from this district. We'll start with District 5, and Mr. Hart, he called me last night, and I wrote down or typed down what he wanted to say. Let Ms. Brock get in position.
1 second. The important stuff. Ready when you are, sir.
Okay, he mentioned the Fair Play School being torn down, and I do believe he's at a meeting trying to secure a grant for that this morning. Engineering for exits 1, 2, and Durham Road. And he said he doesn't have a preference for which order. He said Hartwell Point, which is the old Sanctuary Point, put back on the market. He said volunteer Fair Play Fire Department equipped to handle larger businesses and buildings for the safety of the Fair Play area. He said, see a new fire department built on Wells Highway to protect Utica, Corinth Shiloh, Friendship, and Southern Seneca. And increase supplement to volunteer, or increase volunteer fire department supplements. And
Can I see
then,
these?
yes.
Can you read my writing?
Mhm.
Even better.
And he said, Golden Corner Park open for new industry, so I'm assuming that's keep making progress with the grading and moving forward. That's all.
Awesome.
District 4, Mr. Davis.
My priority is, we increased some road funding last year. We need to add some additional millage to that, and additional staff. So that's one of the most competitive employment fields against the private sector that we're facing. We're still behind on funding, and I know we're doing increments to try to get there. If you're looking all across the state, counties are adding referendums to try to get their building back up. I'd rather not have that additional burden on there, as long as we can continue to kind of make some waves on our side, but we can't do it without funding, and we definitely can't do it without staff. So we need to make sure that we're looking both of those, because I still feel like staffing, salaries and that are still way behind. Not saying we need to match with the private sector, but we need to get close. Sheriff's Office, continued focus on that, 7+ year, emphasis on those with at least 7 years in the Sheriff's Office moving forward. We've done some good stuff over the years, headed in the right direction on that, but that emphasis needs to be on, retaining those employees. Additional, looks like about 4 officers, added to there to make sure that we're adding into that. The growth is coming. There's a lot of, petty crime that's occurring in here. I do appreciate the, things that they are doing, and councils continue to have prioritized on the sheriff's office. That's great. Big issue we're having, my next priority is, building inspections. We need, additional staff and proper funding for those salaries. We are having a extremely difficult time and relying on some great individuals that are staying in those positions that are really helping us, and I appreciate, them hanging in there. You know, the funding of this is one of those things that's very similar to the Rockport. The funding for any of this stuff should come from the fees. We're collecting all-time high building permit fees. So the funding for any of this should come from there. So the emphasis in building inspections and building salaries needs to be, similar to what we're collecting on fees. In progress, but I'll touch on it. Exit 4 sewer, we're working on that. Golden Corner, we're only grading 62 acres. We need to grade an additional 100 acres. 62 is not enough. We've proven that with OITP. We went into this whole thing when we started with the grading at OITP, and people wanted to grade 30 acres here and 30 acres there. Council, made a decision to grade the majority of the park, and that paid off. Golden Corner is similar to that. We usually get a best of, we had 10 bids. So that to me is showing that graders are hungry for this type of job right now. 2-3 years ago, it wasn't that case. Grading, I guarantee if we put that bid out there, we would have had 2 or 3. So that to me shows it's a great time to grade land, and it's proven that that's paid off for the taxpayers as well. High Falls and the Shaw Ram Master Plan, we've talked about this and gotten close to that. Without a master plan, we can't look at grant funding and anything like that, so council needs to make a decision which way we're headed, especially with those parks. Our parks are at max capacity. These are 2 parks that have room to expand on. Election security, it didn't take you walk in this door right now, not saying that you would, but you could walk right out and, as we're looking at yesterday, just a little hiccup in the AT&T world sends everybody into a tailspin. So, election security, whether that's a building or something like that, something needs to happen. I was joking with John earlier. I said, if you ride your bike somewhere in downtown Greenville, do you lock it up or you just leave it loose? You lock it up. So that's a simple thing. So the integrity.
I locked up right now.
Yep. I said, so we need to really look at that and make an emphasis on that. Continue funding salary increases for staff as necessary. When this first started years ago, we took a lot of heat on it as council, stayed the course. Appreciate council continuing to stay the course on that. This is retention, and honestly, I know people look at certain areas of the staff of our county, and they go, well, this is important, this is important. This really isn't important until you realize that one section, if everybody left tomorrow, it could bring the entire county to a halt. So every department we have here is important, and we need to make sure that we're working on it. Trash collection site expansion. We've got some places we're working on a study on that. you know, these areas, I mean, they're lining up out the, you know, how much more can we take? So we need to look at additional, land around those specific areas. And I know we're not permitted for it, but we really need to start thinking about, and y'all get text messages like I do, an additional crusher at the rock quarry. I know that's a whole nother world of that, but to me, council needs to look at a 10-year plan on adding an additional crusher. We can use the screens, but sometimes we have a crusher that needs to go down for a couple of days. We could take the crusher down and use another one. That was some talks earlier when we were purchasing that mobile crusher, that there was a possibility of that. That takes an additional permit, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there as kind of a 10-year wish list on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Mize?
Okay, I got a host of things here. One of the most important one to me right at the moment, and I've had several folks reach out to me, and then if you ride the roads, you see it, especially there in Seneca. Along Wells Highway, we've got expansive building going on, housing developments. I want to, in the coming year or years, get a more well-defined developer standards, working with the planning commission, narrow those down. I don't want to say put limitations on them, but I want them to be held accountable and responsible for what product they leave us with. Don't want to stop in development, just want to slow it down or at least make it something we're proud of when they walk away from it. Along with that, continue working on and establish junkyard ordinance and get it finalized and in the books to where it can be enforced, and that everybody can live with it. We're not looking to put junkyards out of business. We need them, but we're gonna have to do some more study, and we got to find out how many we do have here in the county and at least get them registered on some sort of document so that we know. So we'll finalize that. I've had several people reach out to me in a few weeks on dilapidated structures. So I'd like for us to take a look at code enforcement, beef that department up, whatever it takes, get somebody hired, raise their salary, whatever we gotta do to increase their efficiency so that we can somewhat start trying to clean the county up of some of these dilapidated buildings. They're a safety issue too. Let's see here. I echo what Julie was talking about and John about the election security. We need to do something about election security. We shouldn't have, like you said, we shouldn't have these election boxes sitting out here in the hallway. So whatever that plan becomes, couple of things from the county council meeting the other night. What's his name? Mr. Steele.
Swain Steele, yes,
Swain
sir, solid
Steele.
waste director.
He got up and gave us a overview of the conditions at the landfill and what they're faced with, and give us some good stats of how much stuff is coming into the landfill and the condition of his equipment. We're gonna have to take a real hard look at what we can do as a council to get behind that organization. Because if a landfill stops working, then it's not gonna be a pretty sight for the county. This stuff will be alongside the roads. It just wouldn't be good. So we got to, and it sounds like they're in dire need of some equipment. And that equipment's expensive. And we can work as a council, look at what funds that we can use to purchase new equipment. I know there's a long lead time, but now's the time to be looking at it. They need help. I walked away from here Tuesday night. I said, those folks need help. And to do that, just an example, I know we have folks comes into the landfill from out of state, out of county. We need to put a process, and I'm gonna mention this also for the rock crusher. we need to put a process in place or buy a process and associated equipment to where we can track who's coming in on a routine basis. Like if we got trucks at the crusher and they're out of Georgia, then we ought to be able to scan a barcode, tell who they are, what company they're with. They should be paying a premium above what our county folks can buy rock. That would help offset or defray some of the costs of new equipment. I'm not saying try to break them up, but at least let them pay a little extra premium for the product and to defray some of the costs of new equipment. And that's the same way with the landfill. Have that same type process with landfill, where you know who's bringing stuff in. And that could help pay some of theirs. I think that's all I've got for right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mize. All right, I'll go next for District 2. And mine is not in any particular order. I like to see a 3-year to 5-year plan for all the various designated fund accounts we have, so council knows what we're funding, if we're building balances, why we're building a balance, what's that gonna go out to pay. And then as far as sheriff's office, I like to support the sheriff's office in the 10-year weapon system exchange out with the upgraded sights and the plates the sheriff was talking about for the vest. As well as staffing, I don't know if that number is 4 or what. I know the sheriff has a formula, but we talked for years, don't add more deputies unless you raise the pay. We're working to raise the pay, so hopefully make it easier to try to hire deputies. I have on here courthouse. I like to come up with a plan for the courthouse, tear it down, whatever, let's have a plan, and let's seek the state delegation's help in that plan. Also have on here the volunteer fire supplement. Let's look at increasing that since it's been the same for however many years. I also have continuation with the progress with the Sewer South, engineering and expansion. Also Golden Corner Commerce Park grading.
I want to make sure my marker wasn't going through to the wall.
And then I have salary study implementation. We should have that back by the spring. I'd like for us to have a solid plan for implementation, and I think we could probably take a good chunk of it out this year. I have Prisma Health contracts. I know we made progress in leveling up with them last year. I'd like to see us continue to do that in a controlled manner. Also, I have roads as well. I know we moved additional mill. If we can, if resources allow to move some more this year, I would like to do that. And also have pretty much this solid waste as a whole. I'd like to see a plan for solid waste. This also ties in with the 3 and 5 year plan, but we need to know where we're going, what the needs are, how we're gonna fund it, and also as the convenience centers, all of it just tied together. I'd also like to work towards getting brown goods at some of the convenience centers, especially for the
We're still
far
working on
away.
That is a long process. The concrete repair that we did in
Yeah.
December, some of those had to be done first before the electrical could be done because the electrical was under the concrete. We knew the concrete was coming.
Then we can just tie that into a future needs for solid waste, because I think that'll help us some with the trash we see on the highways and the ravines. And then rock crusher, I don't know the answer, but it's the number one thing I ever receive phone calls on. And I don't know if it's processes, I don't know if additional crusher is needed. I mean, that obviously seems logical. But, I would just like a review of what steps we need to take. You know, in business, if you sell out of your product, it means you're too cheap. But also, this is a county, citizen-owned resource. So I think it should be a good, price point for them. But maybe something where commercial haulers have a permit to in-county, and residential people, when they come through, check their driver's license and set two rates, such as Mr. Miles suggested. At least let's look at it. Now, I'm not saying that is the answer, but I like to entertain it. And that's all.
Y'all see those?
Yes, ma'am.
So mine are not in any order also. Excuse me, I've had a cough, so. Implement salary study. Election security. I got a pickup truck, I can take a couple of them right now. Development standards. More sheriff deputies. More firefighters. I feel as the number of hours it takes to train, we're gonna have fewer and fewer volunteers, and we're gonna have more and more professionals needed. More building code inspectors. And new airport tower. Tower. With FAA funding. Okay.
Okay, I see a lot of similarities already. This is good. It'll give us something to work with. The 3-year budget that I spoke about earlier, obviously no one's gonna know what inflation's gonna be in 3 years, but we should be able to put a pretty comprehensive list together of what we anticipate the needs to be. Just off the bat, development standards, I don't believe that's gonna be a huge, the salary study implementation, I've spoken with, the representatives at Evergreen. They had told us that we would be safe to anticipate 2 million. As long as that number stays kind of the same, that's the number we'll be working with as we go into the next year's budget cycle, which will start next month. The solid waste landfill
Amanda.
support equipment structure, yes, sir?
You're outside that.
Thank you. Woo-hoo. Look, blind girl doing it again. There we go. The solid waste one, we did a study a while back, I believe 2 years ago. Am I right, Mr. Davis? It was 2 years, maybe 3 years. We may be able to pick that up and keep running with it. The factors with the convenience centers, I'm glad this is on the list, because it's one of those places where, years and years ago, in the early 2000s when we first built the convenience centers, nobody ever anticipated the growth that we were going to have. So a lot of them are completely landlocked. So we're going to have to look at property acquisitions and those kinds of things too. And I think that, I don't know that we'll get that done in 1 year, but I would like to see that become a planned process as well. Sheriff's officers, obviously, Sheriff Crenshaw will have a recommended number. Now, keep in mind, firefighters and certified deputies are not in the staffing study, so there will need to be a pool for wages outside of what was included in the study. Wells Highway, I think there's only one for that. In the road department. I think the staffing numbers, salaries, specific departments, all those we can probably tie together and bring back a recommendation. When we start working on the budget process and the election security, I actually met with the procurement director yesterday. We're going to look at some options to go forward with that. It may be still the best option for us to have a separate facility located at this address. This address being the crux, that if we changed the absentee or early voting, for
anything, it would be completely countywide, so we're changing everybody's voting precinct. There is some property here on the back side of the current property we're sitting on, and the county also owns about 11 acres just across the street, which isn't ideal for building, but we'll get these put together in a plan. I'm going to say, just going over the list, I doubt we'll have it by March 5th, but by March 5th, we'll have something to bring back to y'all to vote on how we prioritize those. And that priority list will be, as it always has been, the number of council members that listed it on their list. Because I believe each one was Mr. Hart's in a priority order. So if none of them were in a priority order, we'll put them in priority based on the number of council members that brought up that initiative. Does that work for y'all? Is there anything we want to add to that?
There was a couple of things I missed here, man.
Uh-oh, okay. Let's get
They've
them.
already been mentioned. I think John mentioned it, and Matt mentioned it.
Okay,
Is to evaluate and implement the results of the salary study.
okay.
I meant to say that a minute ago. We already talked about election security. And also continue to focus on the sheriff's department, the safety, equipment, whatever, salaries and retention. So. And I wish there was some way, easy way that we could look at, fixing the roads. I know I've been listening to TV. The Greenville County is wanting to implement a 1 cent sales tax.
Spartanburg County's doing the same thing.
16 counties right now are set to put a referendum into place in November.
And I'm thinking that we probably need to look at that. I mean, if that's gonna be successful to paving county roads, then
Spartanburg County's gone one step further. They're saying, I'm gonna use a little bad language here, but the heck with the state, they're gonna fix the county and the state road.
I did hear that guy say that. But the county councilman, chairman was from Greenville, was on yesterday. He was talking about it. He was on Fox News. So,
Pickens County, they put some funds in, and they got state funding as well. It's like a $90 million project to completely redo 183. I think.
Matt, is there any way that we could get the state to tell us if we put in a 1 cent sales tax, how much money annually that would raise?
Yes, sir, there's a possibility for that. This discussion is leading me to wonder if y'all want us to investigate options for funding for each one of the at least tier 1 priorities. Like if we gave you 3 funding options for consideration. Because typically what we do is try to manage them within the budget process. But if you're discussing the possibility of a 1 cent sales tax, it wouldn't be a recommendation per se from administration. What we could do though is do the Q&A with the state to try to identify what that revenue would look like. I mean, solid waste.
Well, a lot of this is outside the range of 1 year, solid waste.
Most of it is, yes, sir.
I would like to see, I drive on the roads. I mean, the county roads I drive on's in pretty decent shape, but I don't drive on all of them. So I would like a plan so we know going forward what it is. I know we have an annual paving contract, but where do we stand on county roads, the miles we have, what's going into to resurface them?
So we'll be bringing as well this year, and I probably should have mentioned that during that one, but it wasn't directly related to road infrastructure improvement. We are doing a county road assessment. And what they'll do is measure out each one of our 614 miles. We already know that part. But what they'll do is tell us this one's in worse shape than this one. You should put this one as a higher priority than this one. I don't know that they're going to give you a cost for those because resurfacing is different than patching. The road itself may be in decent shape, but the shoulders are in bad shape because they weren't scraped or cleaned properly and water buildup caused alligatoring or whatever. Some may be simply just a patch and fill. I don't know that we'll have a cost.
How about bridges?
We did a county bridge assessment like 8 years ago, and I would love to have that one updated within that assessment that we do for roads.
Bridges is the most expensive part of the road.
Just to kind of, penny sales tax, you constantly hear where these counties are saying, oh, well, 37% of this will come from outside sources. And I'm always careful about that. This is not the first time penny sales tax has been mentioned period that had projects attached to it the first time. This one would have road projects attached to it. So you're talking about something, to me, you're probably looking at a 25, 26. I believe that we've done a decent job, not a great job, because of funding, of keeping up with a lot of our county roads. I don't feel like we need a 1 penny sales tax to leverage to fix that. I think there's other methods that we can do as long as we continue to put some proper funding in place and some staffing in place. We're doing a better job with equipment and giving them better equipment to fix the roads. So to me, I would hate to see, hey, let's just go ahead and throw that referendum in, because I know people are frustrated in it. But with all these other companies throwing this in there, it's gonna drive the cost, paving up period across the state. So if our emphasis is on our own, roads crew and the things that they can do, and we give them additional funding and additional staffing, I believe we'll get more bang for our buck. But I'm just saying, like, if we just ignore it, that private sector's gonna gobble up everybody we have, and we won't have a road department anymore. So I'm very appreciative of, again, I've said this to another staff, but sticking with us. But this council needs to make sure that that's a priority, because, as you see, paving contracts are fixing to just flow through this state, or pretty much the entire nation, in the next 3 to 4 years. So including your bridges and everything like that. So, it seems like the state, there is more funding for bridges across there than there is just paving roads. But several of our roads are on the paving contract. They've been moved from year to year because of issues we've had. So I think we're headed in the right direction with moving some millage and continuing to move some millage over there, but making sure our staffing's proper in that as well, rather than go the world of a sales tax. Because, you know, just for your personal stuff, if you kind of put that stuff together, the average person, based on what I spend, is between $200 to $350 minimum a year that would come out of my pocket to do that. So just think about that. You affect a lot of people by doing a penny sales tax. Yes, you do get some money from tourism. I'm not saying you don't, but does it offset the tax burden that you put on the person that lives here? And that's the question. I know people want us to fix the roads. I believe we can come up with a plan to do it within the realm of our millage that we have, as long as council's smart with it and we make good choices, rather than lay that additional burden out there with the penny sales tax.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I think we need to look at both ways, but I'm okay with that.
Let's find out from the state how much it'd be, because it may not be that much.
It's like 9 million.
Spartanburg County is like 160 million over a certain period of time, but we're not Spartanburg County.
It's like we're 9. Would it be proper to ask when the original study was done with the penny sales tax, what that estimate was? That was several years ago,
I'm going off the top of my head, but I think it was 16.
16 million.
Cause there were
Over-
like 6 projects on the list.
Over each year or over that?
I believe that was a total.
That was the total.
I'm going straight off.
Yeah, I know, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just to kind of give a rough estimate of what that was.
So the penny sales tax matter came up, it's been to referendum twice and failed both times, but road work was never on either of the referendums.
I mean, there's 3 different things it could benefit. It could benefit roads, the crusher, and solid waste. I mean,
I just
all
think,
of that is high dollar equipment that's gonna have to be replaced over time. And, I don't wanna put the 100% of the burden on the tax-paying Oconee County folks. We've got thousands of folks in this county that are not, quote, citizens. They've come in here, they're building these big subdivisions. You got developers that's come in here, they're living here basically temporary. They're not paying any of that. So if you had a 1 cent sales tax, well, whatever they purchase and use during the time that they're here, they're gonna help contribute.
I just feel like the public's already, upset about the gas tax going up and they don't see the result of that. So then if you ask to put another penny sales tax for roads, I'm just not a proponent of raising taxes, period. I think we need to adjust within our means of where we are. That's my personal take. But if council decides to put it to referendum, the voters, they will have a chance to decide.
Well, the growth is aiding us in fixing these problems. If we ignore the problems, it's going to get, that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like, I have no issue in looking at it, but I feel like the growth is going to capture the needs moving forward because, and not, before anybody goes and just prints this out, I'm not saying this, but a small millage increase would make you pay less than it would the penny sales tax. And if you used it properly for roads, it would be better, but we don't need to do that because we have growth coming. This county, as we have seen, the growth is in there. If it's used properly, we don't have to worry about any additional taxation. So I think we're headed in the right direction. I know this county, to me, it's already exploding. So those are the things that we have to look at moving forward, and I don't feel like, I think we're blessed that we don't even have to focus on that. Pickens County threw out $25 a car, which was, of course, the state deemed that was illegal to do after they had collected all that money and made all these thought process. But you're talking about a $25 per car, you're affecting everybody from the guy with the $5,000 car to the guy with the $50,000 car. And to me, that was unfair taxation, and the state saw it the same way too. That's why it was actually brought up in this, and nobody that's sitting here was on that, but it was actually brought up, and I was like, y'all are crazy. $25 a car is extreme taxation, for the guy that's got, like I've got a 74 Jeep. I pay, $7 to ride on the road, and now it goes up to 25 plus the $7. So to me, we're headed in a good direction. I think if we focus those things on capture the growth and add it into these things, I think we're doing a good job to our taxpayers.
We have to capture that growth.
Correct.
And my fear, my personal opinion, is that if we limit the growth of the budget, not the growth of taxes, growth of the budget, we're not gonna capture that growth that you're talking about.
It needs to be put toward the priorities, and roads is, to me, the number one complaint across, and not all of them are our roads, I agree with that. But I think your state's gonna throw additional money, at the gas tax as well. And for us to even think about doing that at this time, I wouldn't be in favor of throwing it. I know, it goes to referendum, but I'm telling you, you see, the referendum passed huge. It was, 54% it passed. That's a lot of people telling you not to do it, if you want my opinion. And that's not here, but I mean, that's in other places where they've gone ahead and just pushed it through. So, this county's one of, I think, 3 counties that doesn't have a hospitality tax. I'm not talking about cities. Cities have their own, but I think we're still 3, or is there 2 now?
I think it's 3.
There's 3 in this entire state that don't have that additional hospitality tax, because we're doing a good job at capturing our stuff. So I think we're headed in a good direction. To me, I don't wanna throw out that we're gonna look at, a penny sales tax, because these other places are way far behind on their road stuff. And they got a whole lot more roads, and then Spartanburg going their route and saying, hey, we're just gonna do it all ourselves. Well, that's great, but the people that live there are the ones that's paying for it. So, it's extreme, especially to a family, that spends money buying groceries and different things like that. There's a few things that's outside of the purview that the penny sales tax doesn't have, but a lot of money.
I just want to go on record saying that was just a suggestion, and to look at it, I'm like Matt, I don't like paying no more taxes than I have to. I'm willing to pitch in, but we need to look at it. Need to ask a question.
So at least for the tier 1 priorities, where we have a majority of council who listed one or more item, we'll look into potential funding sources and what those look like. And they won't be as recommendations. This is how it can be funded, this is how it could be funded. None of those will be recommendations, because that's all entirely you. But I think this sort of organic discussion potentially about the 1 cent sales
You
tax.
want a motion for direction on that? I'll make a motion for direction.
Perfect.
Second.
Tier 1 initiatives.
Second.
All in favor?
We'll just identify as many funding sources as that we can come up with.
Because some of these things is long range. Solid waste is.
It is. And just a glance at the wall during this discussion, I mean, that's a $25 million board right there. It's not a $25 million tomorrow board.
Which is fine. I think these
Absolutely.
meetings should be
It
long
puts us in a
range.
place to be able to say, we know that we're gonna need this in 2 years, we know that we're gonna need this in 3 years. This plan coupled with asking the departments to send in their 3-year anticipated budget. That way we know if we got, obviously, we have the capital vehicle and equipment replacement fund. Departments put their items in that fund, then we start looking at leveraging that out over time. Mr. Davis, I think you brought up, I think you're the only one. The Shaw-Ram and High Falls. Mr. Shirley's here, hi. High Falls is getting to a point where we either need to decide to repair what we have, or we need to decide to go ahead and expand it. And we'll be bringing all these back to you for that, but there'll be some county things that weren't on your priority list, simply because there weren't public input matters that were brought to you to bring out. But we're at a place where we need to start making some 3 to 5 year plans in multiple places. The discussion about the quarry, I really think that one may be we'll have to sit down in an executive session and discuss, because there are a lot of moving parts and factors to that one that could have a significant impact on the lifespan of the quarry. We can either take all the rock out of it today and tomorrow, or we can make a plan for there to be rock in the ground. Because we're about 18% ahead of our schedule now. Well, is it?
Yes.
You want it to close earlier than 2038?
It just opens up the other parameters.
Well, that's what I mean, though. I mean, that one will be one of those that there'll be several factors for consideration and discussion. I think this is a great place for us to start. I appreciate all of you taking the extra time. It looks like there's a lot of similarities. Again, we're focused on quality of life. It looks like everyone did a lot of listening over the past year, bringing forth the solid waste issue. And I know you said it was just the other night, but I think the last time we had a public safety meeting, you had mentioned we need to start looking into this.
He really drove it home Tuesday.
Yeah, and our numbers are never gonna go down. And we know that. But at least we're in a place where we can start identifying what resources will be needed moving forward and continue the momentum. I mean, despite all the things that happened over the last 3 or 4 years, the county has consistently showed up and performed. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are plenty of times where if we could go back and do something differently, we would. But as my mom says, the past called and had nothing new to say. The object is for us to keep moving forward as best that we can. And with everybody working together, I feel like we're heading the right direction.
Will you touch base on where we're at with the commercial haulers and the charges and everything? There was, I guess, 2 years ago, I think it's important that we touch base back on that, because it was before Mr. Mize was on here. There was an emphasis on commercial haulers, the impact on solid waste moving forward, what we're getting for them, and then we did some reductions, correct?
What commercial haulers? The
Trash
small haulers?
Area small haulers.
Can you go back to back up for the committee meeting, the Law Enforcement Public Safety Health and Welfare Committee meeting?
I think it's important during strategic
We
plans
have
to
that.
touch on that
I can
again,
have just a second.
because
This past
that's
Tuesday.
growing, and I'm grateful that it's growing, but, my theory is how many, it's one thing for an out-of-county, person to pick up trash in Okota County and dump it here, and I think fuel has gone down just a little bit, that I think they're coming a little bit more. So that's, to me, what we gotta be cautious with moving along. But I know there was some reduction 3 years ago. I'm not trying to go in here and up it, but we need to look at the impact that it has on us long term.
Is this one you're looking for, Mr. Davis?
Yes.
So we did go over this at the Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee meeting the other night. So the residential waste haulers that had issues with the municipalities being able to go so far outside of the municipal city limits was the original discussion. So, for instance, the city of Walhalla, the city of Westminster, town of West Union, and the city of Seneca all pick up garbage way outside the city limits of their individual municipalities. And the private haulers who have small business within Oconee County, and Pickens County, and Anderson, everywhere else, were being negatively impacted by the city's ability to pick up garbage at a reduced rate, thus offering a lower rate to the household, thus hurting the small business who was doing the same thing. The argument at that time was that these private individual residential waste haulers, and they do pick up commercial as well, but this slide is residential, was that the cities were at an advantage and hindered small business because the cities don't pay tipping fees at the landfill, which will probably come up as one of the recommendations, or one of the options for funding solid waste. Now, all people in the county do pay for taxes for solid waste, but as those prices go up, a small solid waste household fee or whatever, we looked at revenue resources from Association of Counties. I think all of you get those. You get all the publications from Association? So some of those will come from there, just statistical information. But if you can see here, had those small haulers, and I can't see, I can say if you can see, but I can't see. So our anticipated loss of revenue this year is $250,000, a little over a third of a mil. It doesn't mean that the waste isn't worth picking up, and it doesn't, I mean, that is one of those moving parts, complicated things. If the waste haulers don't pick it up and we lose that revenue, they're paying some revenue somewhere. Somebody's paying revenue because the cost of moving waste from one place to another costs money. So whether those people are paying for X service or Y service is up to the person making the determination. But all of that waste is ending up back at the transfer station, which is going to be undersized in 24 months.
If all that tonnage is from within the county,
It's not.
I'm saying if it is,
It's not.
you're not losing money because that's one less step the county has to take it.
So
How do
Pickens
you
County
Police it, I don't know.
I don't know how we police it either. That's the other layer
So
of the
then
complications.
the next thing, we talked about this 2 years ago, well then do you charge the cities a tipping fee? But then, in my view, you're double taxing those residents because that fee gets passed on to the city citizen who get it picked up, and they've already paid those solid waste taxes to the county.
Well, we're also paying, if you live in the city, you're also paying as part of your, like with my commercial business, you're also paying the fee for pickup.
Yeah.
To
And city
maintain
taxes.
vehicles and different things like that.
I pay $15 a month.
Yeah,
Makes
so
it mine.
we just need to look at, we've had revenue loss for specific reasons across this county. We had the agricultural one the state put in place, it was on
Last year.
poultry. That was $400,000 or $500,000 total for agricultural buildings, which I think that was the right move for that. So we've had losses, and where other counties have had tax increases to do that, we've actually moved along going forward. This is another one to where we have lost money. It doesn't really affect us, but looking forward to what they're charging us in Homer, Georgia, those costs are skyrocketing. And they're only going to do one thing, is go up. The hauler's going up, the trash is going up, so we need to really think about solid waste. This is one of them. I'm not saying I look at these guys and go, oh, they gotta pay, but there's gotta be a happy medium with all of it together, because yes, we lost $200,000 to $250,000. We're gonna look back in 4 or 5 years, it's gonna be $500,000. Then what?
Is there one for title
So that's the things that we have to look at. I'm grateful that they're picking up more trash. I'm grateful because honestly, it probably makes it a little bit better around some of the centers, so it lessens the traffic there. But as we move forward with, our contracts and things that we're working with the city, cities are asking more money for us to provide fire protection. Why? Because the cost associated with fire protection is going up. Well, we don't charge anything for solid waste, and we're having all the costs. So in a way, your citizens are actually absorbing the higher cost. So,
And just for notation purposes, last year was the single largest increase for the transportation of MSW from the transfer station to Homer, Georgia, the waste management landfill. It was $11 per ton increase. That was the single largest increase.
it's not going down either.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
Now, on the weird flip side of that, just as a balancing discussion, if you'll, I had Jen pull up the MSW here so all the cities bring in, so there's a certain amount of garbage we control and a certain amount we don't control. Which, like, if you go back to the whole recycling could save us money, it could if we mandated it countywide and forced the cities to implement. But the tonnage here is not the percent of increase from FY 19 to 23 is not as significant as you might imagine. If you flip, Jennifer, I don't know if you can find the one for LCD or landfill. It may be.
How much does it cost us, say like per ton, that we receive at a convenience center to get it to the transfer station? Do we have those numbers?
I can pull those numbers, yes. I can, yes.
That would give us a somewhat of offset.
Yes. Okay, there we go. And if you'll see here, our commercial tons have increased 200% at the landfill. And the landfill is one of those finite resources. It has a termination point. As quickly as we're filling up cells, the cells that we could be able to move to haven't spent their time being closed for us to move back to them. So I'm really happy that we're having a solid waste discussion. And again, I appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness and understanding the complexity of it. All the simple problems have already been fixed, and you're faced with some pretty drastic and complicated issues as we move forward. And I don't think we're ever gonna go backwards. I don't think the money is ever gonna get less. I don't think the tonnage is ever gonna go down. I think we have a ton of options going forward. And as long as everyone knows that those options going forward could include changes on how we handle things, and even good change is hard, I think we can still find a path to success. Going back to that equipment being expensive too, just kudos again to everybody who voted for the capital vehicle equipment replacement plan. Kudos this year, we implemented the 2 mills for emergency services capital vehicle plan. It's been a significant factor in allowing departments to utilize department funds for department needs to increase citizen services or make maintenance improvements. Just that, taking the idea of having a budget for large equipment out of the interdepartmental fund itself has allowed departments to focus on things they need to do to increase efficiencies or provide better services.
One thing I see we're gonna have to really,
Now, Swain was talking to you the other night at the committee level. So a couple of pieces of his equipment are in excess of $1.3 million, the BOMAG, for instance. That would wipe out your whole fund. So there will be a need for us to address the $5 million or so in equipment needs that he has. And all of those needs won't happen in 1 year. I think we'll work on the CAT 973 first this year. And I mean, we'll have to figure out how to fit all of these things into a budget document that works for council, the county, and the citizens, of course. But I think there's a way to do that, especially knowing that we have a way to make a plan for it, that if it doesn't fit today, it might fit next year.
I just hate the grinders not working.
I just hate the grinder. I said it, I'm on record.
I mean,
That's a very difficult piece of equipment. It costs a lot of money per hour to run. Typically, we collect the debris that comes in, and I'm not saying anybody ever does it on purpose, but if somebody picks up one piece of metal, and typically when you're clearing off a large piece of property and you create a brush pile, you may not know that there's a piece of tin or a small piece of rebar from where the land surveyor's stake was or whatnot, but one piece of rebar can eat up the teeth on the grinder, and then the teeth have to come off, and then they have to re-weld them, and it's just no fun. And there's no simpler way to do it. You know, we spend a lot of money and effort. The grinder has a magnet, but if it happens to make it through because there's, 9 layers of wood in between the piece of metal and the magnet, then it makes its way through. And it sounds like a train wreck.
Or the metal is inside the wood.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's one of those things too. I mean, it's like, you have to accept the fact that we have to keep the smaller stuff out of the landfill, or we would be at capacity 10 years ahead of schedule. There has to be some sort of diversion plan to keep the materials out of the landfill so that we're not shortening the lifespan of our ability to manage it and have some sort of control over it ourselves.
One thing I'm concerned with too, and I drive by it every day, and Julian, I'm sure he drives by it. If you go up Wells Highway, they just opened up that huge tract of land. I forget how many homes are gonna be in there, 500 or whatever, 400. The waste that those builders are gonna generate, guess where they're gonna take it?
Oh, yes, sir.
Straight
They're
to
burning most of it. I'll give them credit. Most of them are burning on site now because they don't wanna bring it over.
They got those incinerators.
And that's great if that's what they want, they can do.
You can go over there at night and see the 4 or 5 fires. So they're at least going that route rather than
They're burning all their LCD? That's good. Are they burning construction materials too, or just LCD?
There's no construction going on.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
Those
yeah.
areas
You're right.
that we're speaking of.
Yeah,
It's soon to be
that's
constructed.
probably good for us though, especially the
I
large
haven't
stumps
seen
and
any
stuff.
burning of construction materials.
I was just wondering
Those are
if
so-
we
those
should,
are
if
so
one of
expensive, I don't
the
think-
funding
I think
options would be
they're,
like a county bonfire, like an annual bonfire.
They're using 2x4 pieces like this and gluing them all together to make one 2x4, right? So,
If there's further direction, I'm happy to hear it. If not, I feel like we can have this back to you to vote on as a list of priorities. And it may even be the next council meeting before we have the funding options identified. But this is a great place for us to start. And I think we can have at least the priorities to vote on at the next council meeting, which is March 5th.
budget meeting, March.
Budget meeting, it's April, isn't it?
I thought their budget meeting was in April, or the second. I just was thinking that one may give you a little more time. I think it's April.
First
The
budget
first
meeting
one,
is April.
March 5th, but she said she probably won't have all
So
this
for the
together.
priorities, just for y'all to vote on, so everyone understands what the tiers for the priorities are, because typically we'll have this, bring back what y'all agree, that 3 of you said this, 2 of you said that, 1 of you said this. Because typically we don't try to work in all of the ones into the budget cycle. And the tier 1 and tier 2 typically come first. But if y'all want to have that discussion at the budget meeting, I'm completely fine with that as well.
No, I'm fine with
Any of the, I think we can have a priority list back to you for consideration at the next meeting, and then probably the first budget meeting, have those, if not before then. When's our first budget meeting? I don't have my notebook.
March 5th.
March 5th is our first budget meeting? Oh, well, just didn't we hit a fast forward button? Well, then we'll have it ready for the first budget meeting. Okay, Liddell, you ready?
I'm ready.
Good.
Does anybody else have anything? Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?